in the fall of 1954. I had just come from the novitiate, and Judy was in the 4th academic. I didn't teach the 4th academic, but I knew Judy from afar as one of the brightest in a very bright class. Then a few years later, I taught her sister Joan in the 3rd academic. After graduating from the academy, Judy went on to college and then made her first vows in 1961 and her final profession in 1966. And during her first years of ministry in Chicago and Omaha, she entered fully with enthusiasm and generosity into community life. She was always ready to help, quietly but unobtrusively, and was always a great asset in any community discussion, where she would cut through all the complexities of the situation, look at all the difficulties, and come to a very clear solution. And she was so fun-loving, adventurous, great athlete, swimming, tennis, golf. But above all, Judy was competitive. Competitive in bridge, competitive in Scrabble, where she came up with words no one else had ever heard of. Competitive with any puzzle she had to put together, and stubborn in filling out the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle that had to be finished before the end of Sunday. But most of all, Judy had a brilliant mind. Rosemary Bierce, in her homily for Judy's funeral in New York, quoted Jesus' command as recorded in Matthew: "Thou shalt love thy God with thy whole heart, with thy whole soul, and with thy whole mind." God gave Judy a magnificent mind with which to love him. She served and she used that magnificent mind in all of her ministries. When she went to Fordham for advanced studies in philosophy, when she served on the Chicago provincial team from 1970 to 1974, and when with great generosity she accepted the difficult task of being president of Barra College. This was a very difficult time for Barra. The finances were precarious, the faculty was deeply divided, some of the students were clamoring for changes in the dormitory regulations, but above all, Judy was extraordinarily level-headed, strong in making difficult decisions, always fair and just in her dealings with each one. Then, by the time of her retirement in 1982, Judy's accomplishments at Barra were acknowledged and recognized by fellow administrators, by faculty, by students, by staff, by alumni, by everyone. And we were all very grateful for Judy's time at Barra. And several members of the community, several members of the province sensed that this time of suffering for Judy, this time of working through tough decisions, of coping with difficult situations, helped Judy to hone her sense of fairness, her sense of compassion, and her deep love for every single person. This time at Barra was a wonderful preparation for her next big ministry. Undoubtedly, the ministry in which she gave her greatest contribution to the society, that is, being the first treasurer of the new Chicago province. Judy's retirement at Barra coincided with this formation of 5 provinces throughout the country merging into one. Judy had been on the financial committee preparatory to that time, and her extraordinary mind and her extraordinary ability with accounting and with analyzing financial situations was a tremendous help when we merged and we moved into this new province. For 20 years, Judy was the treasurer of our United States province. Her many skills, her clarity of mind, her dedication to hard work, and her love for each one of her sisters, above all, her wisdom was brought to that task. Her ministry as provincial treasurer, in her ministry as provincial treasurer, she held to two important concepts: community of goods and finances in the service of mission. For community of goods, she called on each one of us to ponder anew how we could share our personal gifts, whether those gifts were monetary, technological, intellectual, spiritual. We all were led by Judy to a very deep understanding of the concept of community of goods. But Judy knew that in her office, she was only a steward of the financial assets of the province. The purpose of these finances were the advancement of the ministry of the mission of the Society of the Sacred Heart. And in that capacity, she enabled many ministries to continue, many new initiatives in ministry to come to be, and she encouraged many new ways of community living, and we all were very, very grateful to her contribution to the province during these years. Then in 2001, Judy's financial administrative burden was lightened, and she moved to New York City to become the financial top person, the director of finances at the Little Sisters of the Assumption in Spanish Harlem. She loved her work there, and she loved New York City. She became a member of that tall, antiquated building on 118th Street. She chose a room up on the top floor. She converted a closet of that room into her shower. And she was very, very much at home in her new humble ministry and her new humble surroundings. Because in the long run, Judy was always a very simple person. She was very humble, a quiet, caring, selfless woman. She never wanted to stand out. She never drew attention to herself. And along with her brilliant mind and her many skills, she was just one of the nuns, just an ordinary member of the community, just a simple RSCJ. I'd like to end these two words with a metaphor. And the metaphor goes back to my days at the Cagney home in Smoky Lake in northern Michigan. Each August, Judy's mother and father would invite the members of her community for a week up at Smoky Lake. I was there, in fact, the summer that Meg and Dick were engaged. I was there many summers when Tony and her four daughters were there. It was a wonderful vacation for each of us. Then one year we were there, the original Star Wars movie came out. So several of us drove to the nearest town and saw the movie. This metaphor comes to me when I remember driving back about 10 at night on a clear, brisk autumn night, and we looked up at the sky in utter amazement. And we saw our real stars, our real galaxy, our Milky Way, in all of its splendor. It was just a magnificent sight. And remembering that magnificent sight reminds me of Judy Cagney. Judy was one of those brilliant stars, but just one of them. All of them in their proper place, all of them blending in, all of them giving great glory to God. That's Judy Cagney, a brilliant, shining star in God's great creation, who was also a simple RSCJ, and through her whole life gave great glory to God, great service to the Society of the Sacred Heart, and great joy to her sisters. And now Dick Cagney will say a few words about Judy's last month on earth.
That was a beautiful tribute. I'm Judy's younger brother, and first I'd like to do is thank Bishop Brassis for the Mass. It was a beautiful Mass in tribute to a terrific woman. And I would also like to thank the Sisters of the Sacred Heart on behalf of myself, my sister Joan, the Cagneys, the Myers, and Norgans for incredible love and everything they did for our sister Judy in the last few months. For you to see how they took care of her is an amazing testimony to the love and devotion they have to each other, and it's unparalleled anywhere I've ever seen. I only have just really one thing I want to talk about, and I'll make this very quick. And I think it's important to think about her last few weeks. They were really quite amazing weeks. We all know how strong and focused and self-determined and how loving and giving a person she was. But I think, frankly, the thing that I really saw, which really amazed me more than anything else, is how she dealt with her last month of her life. And her acceptance, her faith, and her God-like, Christ-like living was absolutely amazing. She accepted and dealt with the pain and suffering, I mean, just like Jesus did. Accepted it without question, without any issue. She taught us all how to live at the end of a life in a very mysterious way. It was really a beautiful gift to all of us to get a chance to spend the time with her. It was really an amazing situation. She loved her nieces and nephews, and they're all there together, and I think it was a great way for them to spend time with her and really see a beautiful end to a life. And so I think she really taught us how to be with each other and treasure the time that we all have together, because there's nothing more important when you really think about it. So. And that's all I have to say, so thank you.